And hello, everybody. Welcome into our third episode of Logistically Speaking. I'm Mike Esposito here at RIM Logistics in our headquarters in Bartlett, our Chicago headquarters. Thrilled that you can join us and thrilled to welcome in our guest today, Carine Chan, who is the CEO of our partner in China, AirC Worldwide, long-term partner. We've known you for as long as I've worked here at RIM. And before we dive into the news of the day, and we really want to dive into the U.S.-China relationship, both on the partnership side for what we do on the logistics side, but also just in general, manufacturing and what they are seeing on the Chinese side for what's going on in the world with the trade issues that we have and the tariffs. But Carine is here for our Uniforce group meetings. Uniforce is our international partnership network. We have 26 countries being represented at the Uniforce meetings today, and this week, I should say. And Carine is here representing AirC Worldwide in China. So we definitely wanted to mention that, and we want to give you the floor. I know our relationship with AirC goes back to even long before I started at RIM, but that your father, who founded AirC, and Bob Mueller were good friends and business partners.
Right. Thank you, Mike. Morning, everyone. I'm Carine. I'm the CEO, as Mike said, I'm CEO of ASC Worldwide. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so ASW was founded by my father, Alex Chan, in 1988. We are headquartered in Hong Kong. We are 100% family-owned business, pretty much like it's the same as RIM, very similar companies, 100% family-owned, 100% independent. Sadly, my father passed away in 2010, and since then I have succeeded the position and start managing the company. Today, still 100% family-owned. It's owned by myself, my mom, and my two sisters. So we are 100% women-owned business.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah. So we got certified last year as 100% women-owned WBE. ASW, yes, I mentioned we are headquartered in Hong Kong. Our network is mainly focused in China. We have over 20 locations in China. In Asia, we are also in Taiwan and also in Vietnam. Since my father started the business, he in the late 1980s, he focused a lot in Latin America. So after Hong Kong, actually, our very first office was opened in Panama. So we have been in Panama for over 30 years, actually 35 years now. And this is why our second major network is in Latin America. Today, ASW, we are in Panama, in Costa Rica, in Chile, Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador. So that's pretty much the beginning of ASW. That's how my father started the business. He has his vision at Latin America. And for, I think, the first 10 years, the company has been almost like 80% focused in Latin America. And then come in the relationship with RIM, actually.
Yes.
So in the late 90s, when my father met Bob Mueller, the founder of RIM, that's when ASW really started to look into the U.S. market. So I think when you start a new trading, it's all to do with, a major part of it is to do with a good partner. So, as I mentioned, I think ASW and RIM is a very similar company background, similar philosophy. So my dad became a very good friend of Bob. And that's how all the relationships started, not only in business, but also the two families. And actually, Bob walked me down the aisle when I got married. So I think this relationship is way beyond business.
Yes.
As two family. And then actually that the personal relationship makes the business relationship even stronger. And in 2015, actually, together with RIM and our another partner in Netherlands, HST, we founded Uniforce together, and that's how Uniforce was formed. And that relationship makes all of us very, very strong, tightly together. So, and I think with the relationship with RIM, the business that we have built together, I have to say we are very proud partner of RIM. And this is the first time that I have visited the facilities. Congratulations!
Thank you.
It's excellent. I think it's state-of-art facilities, and really, really proud to be partner of.
Thank you. And we're very, very proud to be partners with you. And as Carine said, and as we've talked about during our Uniforce meetings this week, again, as I said, 26 countries represented at our Uniforce meeting. It's a partnership, yes, but it's really more personal than that in a lot of cases. And you mentioned Bob walking you down the aisle for your wedding. I was going to say that too. But it's very family-oriented. You're a family-owned business. We're a family-owned business. We are actually a women-owned business too, with Sheila Serafin, who's one of our shareholders too. Right. So there are a lot of things that align us, but that's really internationally, as anyone listening would know, if you do business internationally, you want to be on a partnership basis with your partner. You don't want it to be transactional, or that's where you're going to end up in problems. But the reason I wanted to have Carine on the show today is because so much of what we've talked about this year in our industry has been tariffs. It's been China, it's been the United States, it's been what is the tariff percentage. We had the Liberation Day stuff earlier this year. We've had the pause. We've had the extension of the pause. It's nonstop. We here in the U.S. hear all about it from the U.S. perspective, but I thought Carine could give us a very good idea of what's being said from the China perspective. So as you're dealing with manufacturers, or as you're dealing with other companies that you deal with on the logistics space, how is this being received in the Chinese side by both companies and then individually by some of the citizens of China?
I think since that we know that Mr. Trump is coming back for the second term, a lot of the Chinese manufacturers are quite prepared for this coming, right? They see that coming. And first, I think with the tariff this year, even though it's like pause and then renegotiation again, for sure there's a huge impact on Chinese manufacturer, because this uncertainty and also this tariff. First of all, there's the first impact for sure is the smaller margins, right? Because when there's a tariff imposed on any products, not exactly that tariff can be passed on, not 100% of it, right? So some manufacturers may decide that the bigger ones may decide to just absorb it, try to remain competitive. The smaller ones may struggle a little more because they might not be able to absorb that heat, right? So I think the first impact for a lot of manufacturers is that margin pressure. On the other hand, of course, a lot of the manufacturers are looking at perhaps moving their factories to other places, right? That's why we hear a lot of nearshoring, Mexico, offshoring into Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and in Southeast Asia. That has been in the plans of manufacturer. It's perhaps it sounds a little easier than we thought, but I think this change is a huge impact, because yes, you have to invest, whether it's in Mexico or in Southeast Asia, you have to put a lot of investment, right? And it's not only building up the plant, labor, the learning, this is not easy, So for a lot of manufacturers, perhaps some of them will start looking at not really trying to move a little away from the U.S. market, looking at other possibilities because of this uncertainty happening in the U.S.
Well, and that was part of as we were discussing this before we came here to do the show. I think a lot of people in the United States assume that we, the U.S., are China's main consumer, and we are your main trade partner. And we are a big partner, the United States, of China and Chinese manufacturers. But by percentage, it's not high, and it's getting lower, right? I mean, I know the Chinese manufacturers, as the rhetoric has escalated and as it's become more difficult to trade with the United States, they've looked elsewhere for other partnerships.
Yes, that's why actually a lot of the Chinese manufacturer companies, they start to look at Southeast Asia, Latin America. There are options of other markets, yes.
Yeah, no, and we have seen that too. I know on the export side too, our agricultural products,
Right.
China is the biggest, one of the biggest purchasers globally of that. So we have seen all of that. And as you mentioned, what we've seen on the U.S. importer side, and I'm sure a lot of our guests listening know this, right? As the tariffs have increased and as the importers get those tariff bills, in a lot of cases, they go back to the supplier to ask for some relief, and the supplier may give them some relief. In a lot of cases, they have absorbed some of it. And in a lot of cases, and I think we're starting to see this more and more at U.S. retail, that is getting passed on to the end consumer. So it is a never-ending story, it seems like. We've talked about it the whole time. But you mentioned, too, relocation of factories and relocating where people are manufacturing. And I know when President Trump was in office the first time, he had mentioned about cracking down on all of the products coming in from China, and he raised the tariffs.
Yeah.
So people were thinking, okay, well, maybe we'll import from, or we'll manufacture from some other places. But what we're seeing now is tariffs on all these countries. So like even, we were talking about Brazil earlier because I'm drinking my coffee here and we're talking about coffee, but you just don't know. I think the uncertainty is the hardest thing with this.
Yes, so definitely. A lot of the manufacturers, even they have built their plant in Mexico or they build their plant in Southeast Asia. Now, as you said, comes the tariff on these other countries as well. This uncertainty, never ending, it makes business plan very hard for the manufacturers. Yeah.
Well, I know, and as part of our Uniforce meetings, we have our partner from India here today, and I know India at present is on a high tariff percentage just based on, however it's decided at the federal level. But whereas you previously had India, for example, as hey, India is an alternative, and now India is more expensive, right? So it just, without the certainty, and I know we hear this from our customers too, it's hard to plan for 2026. At this point, I think most people are just trying to get through 2025.
I know.
And
we
see
all
what
trying
happens,
to.
right?
Yes. And every time there's a negotiation going on, we're hoping there's some kind of agreement, but it seems that we have to wait for now November, right, to get a clear picture for 2026.
Well, and I think too, and of course we don't know the answer to this. We're just talking, and again, I'm glad that Carine could be here for this because, again, on the U.S. side, we hear a lot. We hear all kinds of different things in our news media and in our podcasts and just in our industry trade information. But we don't always hear from the Chinese side. So I think this is very valuable. But you're right. So if President Xi and President Trump have this meeting that they're supposed to have coming up here, we have no idea what they're going to decide. But I think ideally the best thing that they can decide is some kind of level, but they have to then stick to it, right? There has to be something we can plan it to, right?
Yes, because I think at the moment, a lot of changes, right? Even in between negotiation, that makes the uncertainty, the feeling, the sentiment is there, right? So I think hopefully in the coming up negotiation really can reach some kind of agreement. We can have some stability for next year. That will be great for business. Yeah.
Right. Well, and from a business perspective too, and I know we deal with steamship lines, we deal with airlines, whether it's passenger airlines, cargo airlines, but on the logistics side and on the freight forwarder side, it's difficult for us to plan. I know it's difficult for our ocean carriers to plan.
Yeah, totally.
But as a business owner, like from the business owner side, as you're doing this and you're looking forward for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, it's in the same boat as our customers too, right? You have to try to guess or try to estimate what's going to happen, right?
I think you would agree. I mean, we meet customer all the time, and when you sit down with them today trying to say, so what's going to look like for the next few months is difficult, right? And us as a logistic provider, the logistic arm of our customer really try to work with them, right? And also provide information from the logistics side, telling them, okay, what's the change of routing going to be like? Because even carrier and ship airlines, they struggle because you can't really predict the what's going to happen, right? For example, we had that little window, if you recall, in May, that there's a pause, and everybody tried to rush because the first quarter, most of the companies are very conservative and try not
Yes.
to do any movement because they were worried that, okay, my cargo arrived at the US and then all of a sudden this tariff will come and double my price. What are we going to do? So in that May window, you can have a cargo rush, right? But the carriers to adapt to that, it takes time. They cannot. It's not like changing the routing overnight. So then you face a lot of challenges with space, equipment, and I think that the challenge for us, right, together is really trying to sit down to have a constant communication with the customer, trying to know what is their plan and suggest better solutions. Of course, now that as you mentioned, that there are manufacturers having their plants also outside China, but the decision makers still in China. For them to understand the logistic challenge in a country that's outside of their own is also challenging, right? So they may say, okay, I have this ready from my Vietnam factory going to the US or going to wherever. We will have to give a lot. That will be our role to give a lot more inside information for them so that they can plan ahead. Is really within the expectation.
Yeah, and I know, and I'm going to make an analogy here, like with the steamship lines specifically. Their schedules are very thought out, very planned.
Yeah.
And when these news items happen and it greatly affects global trade, the joke of turning a ship around, you can't just turn the big ship around on a dime. It takes forever. Well, that's literally true in this case because those schedules are those schedules and they can cancel sailings, but to reroute vessels or to replan where your empty containers are at, very difficult.
Almost impossible. It takes a long time to plan, right? Yeah. So it is a challenge. Yeah.
And I know I've heard from some of our air freight partners too that depending on the levels of how many passenger jets are coming from a certain origin to a certain destination here in the United States, that affects how much freight space is available, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a cargo jet or whether it's a, if it's a passenger jet, if I'll use Hong Kong because it's where you live, if it's Hong Kong to Chicago, well, if there's less passengers coming from Hong Kong to Chicago, there's less freight, right?
Yes.
So all of this plays a role, and I know we're probably getting away from what we were talking about with the tariffs, but it definitely has an effect as all of the changes happen in the market. And I think what we're both saying is we need some kind of stability as an industry, and I know I hear that from my U.S. customers a lot as we have our meetings, is it's difficult to plan for next year because we don't know what the rules are going to be. And I know that's where I think we all hope that we can get some certainty. And I'm curious, and I know we've talked from the business side, but from a personal side, like as a Chinese citizen or whatever, just somebody consuming the news in Asia, in China, on some of the manufacturing countries, how do you think all of this is perceived as to what's happening globally with the trade?
I think, of course, from a personal perspective, we think it's not a good idea to have this kind of uncertainty, trade war, because no one likes uncertainty, right? And to be honest, from the business perspective, we really want both sides to get a win-win situation so that business can carry on. So I think most of the Chinese would hope that some sort of agreement will happen soon, and I guess this ongoing negotiation, it at least is a hope because that both sides are talking and hopefully to reach a consent very soon. That we can go back to a stable business environment.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it. Right. We have to settle somewhere so that our businesses, our customers, our manufacturers can plan. And I know that was part of this, like you mentioned, when there was the big slowdown after all the tariffs went into effect. And then everyone tried to push everything out when there was the pause. But if you're the manufacturer, if you're the Chinese factory, you can't just stop and start, right? I mean, this has to be done in over time. You can't just stop manufacturing and then all of a sudden start again and have it be done, right?
Right. And also, if imagine if the manufacturer main market is the U.S., this uncertainty is not going to help their business planning. That's why I think that the trade war, the tariff actually drift the two countries a little more away, because manufacturers start looking for other markets, right? Try to be less dependent, because we don't know
Right.
when is this going to stop, but then manufacturer has to survive, right? The company has to survive. Don't want to have a lot of cutting jobs, right? Right. Don't want to close down the companies.
Sure.
Then that's why I think that they start looking at other markets. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I know, and we talked about, we have a very close partnership with AirC. We always have, as long as I've worked here at RIM. But as you just said, you can't necessarily plan. So as you're planning for next year, you can't necessarily plan on what's going to happen with the United States. So you're almost more likely to look then at your South America business or your Central America business, right? I mean, it has to be something that's in the back of your mind there, right?
Yes. Actually, a lot of customers also ask our view on this, right? Because some planning, if they are planning to look at other markets, whether relocating factories to mitigate a tariff or looking at opening other markets. And they start asking us, actually this week when we are in a Uniforce meeting, a lot of the agents start really looking at like Latin America, which probably before most partners around the world are focusing US, Europe, which are the traditionally core markets, right? But you're right. So a lot of the businesses, whether it's our partners or the customers, the manufacturers, they are looking at other directions.
Yeah, and I know just from what I see here on the U.S. side and what RIM has seen, we've had certain front loading, very busy first quarter, a very slow when the tariffs went in. And then everything went crazy for a little bit, and things have been steady since the pause. But in terms of American buying habits and our customers, what we're seeing, we still do a lot of business with China, of course. We still do a lot of business with other countries in Asia and in Europe. But I think the prevailing thought is, let's get through this year and hope that we can plan for a better 2026 and have more solid answers for 2026. And I think part of the problem, and I don't know what you see on the Chinese side, is that they may implement some rules, but then the rules change. The next week. It's hard. You can't do that.
Yeah, it's very hard to grasp that, because and really there's no again, we are talking about certainty. There's no certainty here.
Well, and in closing our China discussion, I think a lot of the value, Americans have benefited from our partnership with the Chinese in terms of having the manufacturing there for some of the products. The Chinese have benefited from the Americans with all the purchasing, but it's a relationship that works well when it works for many years. When it works for both sides, it has to be a benefit to both sides. It can't be something where you're going to pay for everything and we're going to get all the value. There's got to be that middle ground. So I hope we can find that common ground diplomatically with the negotiations coming up between President Xi and President Trump. And I know our customers, just because they tell me, will certainly appreciate that type of certainty. And I'm sure as a business owner,
we all want that, right?
We all want that. Well, and you mentioned our Uniforce group. You mentioned that we've had our global conference here, and to speak not just of China but globally, as you have representatives from 26 countries here, and I was in some of the meetings the past few days with you guys. There are so many different areas that we can all work together in, and maybe something that we can't do individually, but we can do, and that's part of why the Uniforce group is so important to all of us, is because that gives us that local representation on the ground in all these different countries.
Totally, Mike, because going back to what we just mentioned about tariff, right? All these Chinese manufacturers trying to set up factories in different places, and I think I'm so glad that we are in a group like Uniforce, that we are so strong. Together, all our members are local heroes. They are expertise in local, and when the situation come like this year, we may able to have partners that provide a solution to our customers, right? So if my Chinese customer tell me, oh, I have to move out of Vietnam more because of the tariff, or out of Indonesia more, again, we need to have that relationship already there, right? I can talk to my partner in Indonesia. Okay, this is the situation. We need your help. The volume is going to grow like this. What is, because you are the local expertise, what is your advice? What can we tell our customer in China? And a group like Uniforce that can provide that flexibility to our customer, a solution like immediately. I think that's a great deal for our customer.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's sure. And we talk about our partners as being family, and as being, and it can be hokey, and you're trying not to overstate it, but especially on this side, and especially we've worked with you, 30 years, whatever it's been, right? It becomes that, and it becomes that for our customers and our our customers who become our partners, and you get to know our partners. And really, when our business works at its best, is that all of us working together. If I need something from your side, I know I'm going to get it. If my customer needs to contact you for something, they can do that, right? I mean, that's part of what makes this work so well.
And you can be rest assured, it's a trusted partner, trustworthy. You know that relationship is there. You feel a lot more confident, right? When you talk to the customer, that the other side of the world is somebody that I trust, so you can count on me that the solution is good, will be workable, right?
Yeah. No, and as technology keeps improving, I mean, we're talking to you here on a podcast from our RIM office, with whether it's WhatsApp or your cell phone or your FaceTime or whatever. I mean, we can talk. I mean, we were WhatsApping this morning. I mean, you can talk in any manner, and it's very helpful, especially almost real time. Whether it's text or message or whatever.
24 hours a day, right? And that's happen all the time in our business, right?
It does. Well, and that's what we were talking about yesterday at the Uniforce meeting, is that, if your phone rings at midnight, Joe Schmo might not answer it, but we know our partner is going to answer that call. So it's very important. So as we close here, and thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. So our Uniforce meetings have been the last few days here in the Chicago area. So we've had events every night, dinners and whatnot. But I know last night, I have to ask you, how was the Lake Michigan cruise dinner that you guys went on? Because I know that was
amazing. I think I've been to Chicago a couple of times. I think at this time of the year, sometimes the weather can be a bit unpredictable. Could be could be a bit cold. But yesterday the weather was perfect. We had we watched a very nice sunset with the skyscraper at the background. Amazing.
Yes. Well, and the funny thing is, a lifelong Chicagoan, I have not been on some of those boat tours because I live here, so I haven't gone on those. But it's funny that that you do that as a visitor. But no, and that's great, and I'm glad. It's always good to see our partners, and you sit in that room, and like I said, you're representing 20-something countries, and you get to know the people and work with them. So before we close, a few quick news items. The de minimis exception has ended. That was at the end of August. So, your small parcel stuff coming from overseas, that again is gone. So that $850 limit is now gone. I'm sure you have seen that. The big meetings coming up between the Chinese president and the American president, that is still to come. We obviously don't know what's going to happen there. And then the other thing, we were talking about driving here, and not that you or I have any knowledge of what our Supreme Court is going to do, but the president's emergency tariffs have been challenged and have been found, I don't want to say illegal, but I'm missing the exact term, but it's gone all the way to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is going to decide this in October. And I know, because I've already had customers ask, what happens if they rule against the administration? Do we get our money back? The short answer is yes. But I don't know how that's going to happen yet, and maybe that's for a future episode. Sarah, we could do that as we talk, but a lot's going on. That we are not going to cruise into 2026 gently. We're going to have to keep up with this, so we're gonna. I'm sure I will be asking you many questions in the future.
Yeah, and hopefully very soon, this time of next year, we will have a lot more stability, right?
Yes, exactly. We'd all sleep better at night. I know, in our industry for sure, right? Well, Carine, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
It's been great talking with you. Thanks to everybody who has been watching. We appreciate your support, and hopefully we're helping keeping you informed about what's going on here in the logistics industry. And we'll be back for episode 4 next month. Until then, Mike Esposito, Carine Chan, we're here at RIM in our Chicago headquarters, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.